This channel supports Extra Life in its efforts to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. For more information about how to donate and join in their efforts, go to the link displayed here. Extra Life. Play games, heal kids. What up, everybody? This is your boy Black Magus, and apologies for being so late talking about the NBA playoffs, but been a busy week, getting close to finals, personal stuff, yada yada yada. Y'all don't want to hear that. Just want to hear me talk a little bit about the NBA. I am going to do my traditional round per round series picks, so don't worry, they're just a little late because of time constraints, being busy, and yada yada yada, as I was saying before. So NBA season, I feel like the older I get, the less I watch the NBA, and I think that's partially because I am old enough to remember things being, I've always said that a lot of times when we look back and we think that things were so much more better than they are now, they aren't as good as we remember. They're kind of a reflection of what's going on now, but at the same time, I still feel like there's a sense of, I don't know, how could I put this? I just feel like the regular season was a lot more compelling and meant a lot more in the scheme of things. I feel like, home court advantage was something that weighed heavily on either conferences and for the NBA Finals. I feel like positioning, although I will say this year, I think positioning has become as key as it has ever been as far as where you fall in the playoff ranks. But I feel like things were it was a bit more of a scramble. It was like scrambling to be one of the top two teams was a lot more. There was a lot more urgency to it. Whereas now I feel like in a lot of cases, in particularly with the East, fall as you may, it doesn't matter. All you need to do is just get in there and you got it. I feel like at least that's the way that things seem to be these days. I just don't feel that same urgency as before. And I will say this. Living on the East Coast, you see a lot more East Coast basketball than you do West Coast basketball. So it's probably natural for me to feel that lack of urgency. It's like looking at the Eastern Standard, looking at the teams that get in, and it's sad because this is the way it's been for years. And this is probably why I don't watch as much regular season basketball as I used to, because back in the 90s and part of the 80s, the Eastern Coast had a lot more balance, where is that you would see a lot more competitive games. You had the Cavs, you had the Bulls, you had the Pistons, the Hawks would fit in there now and then. You had the Celtics. Coming into the 90s, the Nets rose up. The early stages of LeBron when he made Cleveland competitive, although that was kind of the start of the downfall too, that era where you used to have the classic Wizards Cavs matchup. That kind of started that era of you just need to just slide in. But the Pacers back in the day, the Hornets, the Magic, the Knicks, 80s and 90s East Coast basketball, East Conference basketball was something else. You had a great rotation of teams. Now, it's just like, to be quite honest, there's usually, at best, 2 legitimate teams. Maybe 3 that have a shot of making the finals. And you're not even saying have a shot of winning it all. You're saying making the finals. So, it's like, I don't know, and I don't stay up late enough, or at least by the time West Coast basketball comes on, say TNT or something, I'm either diverted with something else, I'm asleep, I'm preoccupied with other stuff, so I don't get to see West Coast basketball to feel that much enthralled in regular season basketball. That being said, this is going to be interesting playoffs. Very, very interesting playoffs because, like I said, it seems like this year, more than any before to me, the matchups now are kind of critical. And there even some in the East Coast that kind of are critical in ways that they've worked out to an advantage and possibly a disadvantage. Well, there's not really that many disadvantages, oddly enough, in the East. But in the West Coast, oh, man, the disadvantages are crazy. So, Hawks ended up with the second best record in the NBA, which is kind of crazy, but best record in the East, so they're number one. They've faced the Brooklyn Nets, who just eked in past Indiana and Miami, who slumped. It's sad because they only got 38 wins, whereas you look at the Western Conference, the worst team is the 45-win Pelicans. Everybody else in the West has 50 or more wins. That's crazy. There are actually 3 teams in the East that are 500 or below, whereas everybody in the West has a winning record. The Thunder missed out with the same exact record as the Pelicans. And then the Suns have a losing record, but that's the 10th best team in the West, whereas had they been in the Eastern Conference, Suns would be in the playoffs. Think about that. 39 wins, they'd be in the playoffs. They would have jet past the Nets and made the playoffs. That's pathetic. But anyway, it's going to be an interesting playoffs. We get to see if Atlanta's as real as they seem to be to people in the regular season. I still have my reservations. I honestly still believe that Cleveland is the team to beat in the East, even though they had a tumultuous regular season. Again, it's like I feel like the attitude for the East is just get in and then worry about all of that rest of that stuff later. I mean, Cleveland is comfortable enough where they got a couple of home series before they get to the Eastern Finals. So if they do face the Hawks, they don't have to worry about the home road disadvantage. They're a very talented team. They're solid. And there's other solid teams. Like, I still think Chicago's a solid team, but they've been kind of helter-skelter. And that's also the theme of the East, too. A lot of teams that just consistency. It's like where the West, you had a ton of consistency. The East, ton of inconsistencies. It's a crazy, weird balance. Like the Wizards. I live in the D.C. area, and everybody's hyped about the Wizards. I gotta say, I'm still tentative because they have their moments where they make you scratch your head. And the Wizards are a very talented team. They probably should have been 3rd or 4th seed, but they had that lull where it was like why aren't they playing decent basketball? And they struggle on the road, which is not good. You need to be able to do well in the playoffs. Although I will say they did a good job against Toronto, who is another team that's like the model of inconsistency. So it's going to be weird. It's good. The Eastern Conference is going to be weird to watch. I expect Cleveland to come out of the East. For the West, I honestly can't call it because the matchups, the setups are just crazy. Like, if I'm the Clippers, I'm fucking livid that I have to face the Spurs. This is where the whole your record should rank you type of thing probably should come into play completely. Just have one, the team with the best record is the number 1 seed, second best is second. Yeah, it's disrespectful to the quote-unquote conference winners, but that's a hell of a matchup. Congratulations. You guys are the third best, the third conference winner. Your reward is you get the Spurs. Fuck. This is fucking crazy. It's just nuts. The West is just going to be all sorts of fun to watch. there's going to be some hell of a matchups, hell of a games, deep series. It's going to be interesting. East Coast stuff, I'm not that much interested in looking in, but the West, I definitely am. But I'm not going to ramble on for too long. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cut these videos for each conference. Sorry again for being so late with this stuff. I'm still going to do them, even though I've already missed a couple of games. But the results of today's games aren't going to sway at all my opinions of the series, because these opinions are what I've felt before even then. But anyway, as always, you guys hit me up. Let me know what you think, and I'll holler at you later. This your boy Black Makers, and I'm out. Deuces.